Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So the new dungeon, Spire of the Watcher, has released, and there is a bunch of interesting lore that has come along with it. I've got somewhere within the region of 4, 5, maybe up to 6 or 7 different videos on it, covering all of these different hidden aspects of the story held within. For something that's so well contained and honestly kind of short compared to most other dungeons, it's kind of staggering to see the sheer breadth of lore that we can get in this one dungeon, and it's honestly kind of a lot to grapple with. So today, I wanted to take a look into the experience that we have on the mission itself, because all that is in itself an important story, and it leads us in the direction of Lightfall, as well as bringing back the story of our favourite newly risen phoenix, Osiris. It also links into all the other stories that we'll eventually cover, so let's begin with that. The story begins with a communication from Ikora Rey. Her hidden agents have been tracking the various time distortions on Mars. Those distortions are the same ones that we see in the first mission of the Witch Queen campaign, and this is one of those moments at which they have stopped near something interesting. It's worth remembering that the reason these time distortions appeared in the first place was because of the activity of the Witness, which used the powers of darkness to tear apart the different timelines, looking for something on Mars as it did. This was something it uncovered, and was potentially the information related to Nephele Stronghold. Keep that in mind as we continue to delve further into other lore videos on the Spire of the Watcher, because it's gonna come up. More importantly though, there is something that we discovered, thanks to the Hidden's report, and that was indeed that the Spire of the Watcher existed, or more specifically as they called it at the time, an old Seraph bunker which had been reactivated. Osiris was insistent on investigating the facility, but given his more recent condition and his lack of a ghost, Ikora didn't want to see him injured and didn't approve sending him out into the field. There was also the bigger point. There was an issue of trust between the two great warlocks, as Osiris has been haunted by his visions and of the idea of a city on Neptune ever since his revival. Ikora has convinced him to run as our tactical overwatch for this mission and to stay out of the direct line of fire. The trust that Osiris has for us makes Ikora's request much more palatable, and so we all set off to Mars to investigate the Spire of the Watcher, a Golden Age Seraph facility chock full of secrets and mystery. Our mission begins, and we make our way to the site under the guidance of Osiris.
You've landed at the source of the complex's arc supply. Centuries in Martian rust have done this place no kindness. Our window of opportunity is short. Arc surges destabilize the complex, and Vex are breaching the command matrix. Go.
When we push further towards the spire, we discover an outpost. Like a deserted town, really. And some Vex who think that there isn't enough room in this town for the two of us. The outpost is full of arc power cables that have been disconnected. The facility here needs to be powered up in order for us to gain access to the secrets that lie within. The arc cables here stretch across the complex for miles, and time has not been kind to any of them. Any of them we find will need to be reactivated, but such a process will need to be conducted under heavy fire from the Vex of the Sol Divisive. These Vex are residents to the Black Garden, and their calculations for survival have brought them to the conclusion that only by binding themselves to the Witness can they assure their ultimate victory.
It is unusual to see so divisive Vex outside the Black Garden. They're a fanatical sect of programming devoted to the darkness.
As we descend downwards into the facility, it becomes clear that this place has quite a remarkable purpose. Take a listen to what Osiris says here.
The Ishtar Collective in a Seraph complex. Peculiar. They were rivals in the Golden Age. This wasn't just a pillory site, it was a joint research facility, focused on extrasolar colonization efforts. The Sol Divisive have been scouring research logs. They were looking for something more than to imprison Rasputin's subminds.
This facility, known in the Golden Age as the Ares Spire, was a hub for both the Ishtar Collective and the Clovis Bray Seraph Group. This should be our first hint that the facility here is going to have a bunch of lore that indicates the nature of that rivalry. If you want a preview of how deeply that rivalry goes, then yeah, go to the new scout from the dungeon, take a look at the end of the lore entry, and, well, you'll get the gist. A facility focusing in on Golden Age colonization is crucial for our purposes as it's likely related to Osiris's visions of that city on Neptune. Remember that, because we're going to discuss that in future content for sure as well. It's also here in this first room that we can discover a series of audio logs that starts and trails throughout the facility. This has been left for us by a foe of ours. This'll be another video I cover as well, but for context, it appears that Aramis infiltrated the facility and has left us messages specifically in the knowledge that we'd investigate. It does not appear to be clear whether the Hidden were aware of this, which is indicative of the idea that Aramis must have impressively infiltrated the entire facility before we even got the chance to, and left these audio logs there for us before exfiltrating and not being noticed by the Hidden at all. Those are pretty impressive infiltration skills. We'll uncover what she has to say later, but just for the moment be aware that there are 6 logs left for us to uncover as we make our way through the Ares Spire. Returning to our current mission, we see that the main access bridge deeper into the facility has been locked off to us, and so we're forced to do as we commonly have to, crawl around through the ducts in order to progress. When we reach the next control room, we see the vast amount of processing space that has been made available for the various processes being done here in the Ares Spire. The ground beneath is chasmous. But perhaps more importantly, we can see a massive soul-divisive wyvern beginning to make its way to the heart of the facility, which is slicing through the security doors. This is not the last we'll see of this particular Vex, and it does appear that this is the reason why the opening door to the main access bridge was closed. It got in and shut it behind itself, and is now slowly making its way towards the center of the facility. This is also the moment at which we see other Vex within the facility that are starting to show us their purpose here. It's not just this purpose, it is in fact a very multi-pronged operation for the Vex, as we'll find out, but it's clear that there is something here that they are trying to do. You see, areas of the Ares Spire are referred to as a pillory, both in the lore and in various parts of the mission. This is one of those things that ultimately can tell us what the purpose of the facility is. What is a pillory in real life? Well, you know those things in medieval town squares where you'd put your hands and your head through 3 holes and you'd be stuck there and people would throw tomatoes at you? Yeah, that's what a pillory is. It's kind of something which you imprison something within. And then there are also hydras floating around that are called incarcerator hydras. To incarcerate someone is to imprison them. All these names begin to give us a little insight as to one of the purposes of the Spire back in the day, as well as what the Vex may be trying to do with it now. The Spire is a prison, but not a prison for people, a prison for AI. But this isn't an AI like Rasputin. These are smaller, much more fractured pieces of artificial intelligence that are supposed to be imprisoned here. These are meant to be smaller AIs, subminds in particular, and it's assumed from Osiris's perspective that this is in fact what the Witness and the Vex intend to do here, although we do get to that later.
The information stored here, but could it be linked to my visions? Why else would the Witness be interested in these files?
As we ascend the Spire to its apex, we're confronted by ever-growing numbers of soul-divisive Vex, and Osiris eventually voices that reason as to why they must be taking a more defensive posture over this particular facility, and why there are so many Vex here. He states that they must be looking to incarcerate the subminds.
A Vex mine remains in this terminal like an open door. It's using the tower's arrays to connect with installations across Sol. This must be in preparation to imprison the subminds. Breaking their connection could end this threat.
If this facility here is designed as a pillory station, then it's logical that it could indeed be used to hinder our progress with rebuilding the Warmind by imprisoning all the remaining submined fragments here. If the spire is then consumed once again by the time rifts, access to such submines would become even more complicated to obtain. So, it's imperative that we ascend all the way to the top of the spire and face the Vex mind at its apex. Achelous, the Siren's current, is the mind that we discover up here, and in very typical Vex fashion, they are mostly inscrutable but for their names. There is so little that we can glean aside from their names that it's in fact all I'm going to focus on with this boss. A siren back in mythology is a creature with a melodic and beautiful singing voice. Typically the idea is associated with an evil variant of a mermaid, one who sings and with a very specific intention will lure sailors over to sharp outcroppings of shallow rocks where their ships would be broken and they would be lost to the waves. This appears to be the purpose of Achelous, this Vex mind. It will have a siren call that is drawing the different submines out into the system's various currents that can travel towards the spire. When drawing these submines in, they can then be imprisoned there, with the siren song having played out its purpose. But, of course, not if we can stop it. When we do destroy this Vex mind, at first Osiris seems assured that all is well. After all, up until this point, it seems like the primary purpose of the Vex has in fact been stopped. They're no longer imprisoning the submines here. But then, very quickly, the Vex tip their hand, and the realization comes to pass that they are very much not here for that purpose alone.
Your foe breaks, and so does their hold over the security systems. Perhaps now we can... No! They're driving the reactor core to a meltdown. It's going prompt critical. Those power surges were intentional. Get to the reactor, lest we lose everything.
Osiris's urgency here is well-founded. As we head downwards toward the reactor, it might begin to become apparent that the Vex have been forced to tip their hand. If the Vex wanted to use this facility as a prison alone, then they would have worked hard to re-establish control over the spire. But scuttling it reveals that their true motives go deeper than this objective alone. This was a multiple objective mission that the Vex were conducting. If they could imprison the various submines here, excellent. But there were other things that they had to gain from the spire. Calling forth and imprisoning the war mines was a lesser priority than accessing the data within, and even more importantly than that, it was being accessed so that we were kept from it. Now, with all of those other possibilities beginning to slip through their fingers, the Vex moved to protect those secrets by scuttling the facility and overloading its core reactor. This only seemingly reinforces Osiris's suspicions further, that the visions he has can in fact be answered by some of the secrets in this tower, and that the hidden city on Neptune can indeed be discovered thanks to some of the data stored here. It then becomes imperative for us to recover that data and stop the scuttling of the facility. But for Osiris again, this matter is personal and almost desperate. He's eager to prove himself to be trustworthy once again. Take a listen to him as he explains it.
Guardian, what we've seen here proves my visions have merit. We must secure the complex to convince Ikora. Trust is a frail thing, as much as our mission. If this can restore her faith in me, I need this.
As we descend further into the reactor, we see that old wyvern friend of ours from across the bridge, and we realize that they are here at the center. This is the final foe that we're going to have to face off against. Persis, Primordial Ruin. This Vex mind is attempting to cause irreparable damage to the spire and its data, and simply put, we cannot allow that to happen. By locking it in the reactor and containing the wyvern within, momentarily we're able to cut power to its overcharged shields, and in that moment we get the ability to smash its hull. Osiris gives us a little more information at the end of our engagement with this Vex mind, and he says the following.
This was a clever incision by the witness. A multi-front attack. Sabotage us, glean knowledge, and annihilate any trace of advantage. Extrasolar colonies. Ages ago, Saint and I thought we'd leave the city once we'd made it safe. We'd explore the universe. That time never came. A matter of finite seconds lost in the margins then. Now, there's only the want of more. But we learn to make do, young wolf, and turn the edge of defeat into victory.
This is where the story of our incursion ends, with Osiris thanking us and a quick debrief with Ikora, but that is certainly not where our story in the Spire ends, for all the other different storylines that have peeked out from it have really got a lot of relevance. This is something that we're going to continue to investigate in the next few videos that we do alongside other bits of seasonal lore, because there are mysteries here involving Eramis, Anna Bray, various Tex Mechanica fueled guardians, Clovis Bray I and Maya Sundaresh, and a certain artificial intelligence contained within this facility that needed to be uncovered. An artificial intelligence with a need to survive. But for the moment, this was our involvement in the story. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you want more lore on the Spire of the Watcher, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe. And be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Of course, you can also leave your own thoughts down below in the comments section. If you want me to cover a particular part of the Spire's lore first, go ahead and leave it down below in the comments. I think we're probably going to cover something along the lines of Eramis first, because it is one of the smaller topics and we can get it out of the way more expediently. The AI that's discovered in the facility, its Golden Age activities, that is a big lore video that could be 40 minutes long, so I'm going to need a little bit more time to write that one, and Martin will need more time to edit. So, with all of that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Perodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.